Hello, this is the My Artifank episode number 3400. Today's date is 29 April 2025. It's been almost like a morning at 7:24 a.m. Why I'm actually recording Artifact during this morning? I don't know why, but it's like that na ki like it's a summer. Yeah, it's been really hot, but during the morning it felt little bit of cold, and I wanted to experience his coldness and stuff like that. So that's why I'm at rooftop, sitting at the shadows, and try to experiencing this kind of like some little bit cold weather. Okay, enough that I have. So yeah. um, Last night I record Artifact, yes, but I don't know what I was kind of like somebody saying. Okay, yeah. Um, but whatever. Right now I'm really good. Okay, so let's just jump into the question. All right. Okay. Now, question is, how might studying the flight of bird have help you design the flying machine? Oh, that is really good question. Okay, okay, where is this question came from? Um, couple of weeks ago, I watched the web series named Demons of Leonardo. Okay, yeah, it's a web series actually based on Leonardo da Vinci. If you don't really know who is that person, he's the really genius person. Okay, yeah, and really great. Yeah, like if you don't really know, one of the world famous painting, Mona Lisa painting, was drawn by this guy. He's not just a painter; he's a master of multiple things, and yeah. While I was watching that particular show, I wanted to think like him. Okay, uh, so I went to the chat GPT and kind of like a simply ask me such a question so that I would think like Leonardo da Vinci. So this is one of those questions. Oh yeah, the question says that ki, how might studying the flight of bird help you design the flying machine? um, it's like that na ki regarding about flying. Okay, since the beginning of the time, okay, since the human existence, we always have curiosity of flying. Okay, yeah, as a human we can't fly, and birds can fly. Okay, yeah, but a human can't fly. And and basically we always have curiosity that why does birds can fly, why we can't, what they have that we don't really have it, and we think about lot of stuff. So if I wanted to kind of like create a particular design, a flying machine, what kind of like a stuff do I really need, what kind of like a stuff do I need to understand? uh, okay, first of all is that okay, I'm analyzing birds. Okay, yeah. So eagles. Okay, yeah. So if I'm kind of like a thinking about eagles, eagles are fly at very high altitude. Okay, yeah. uh, Not really that much high, but almost like a 300 400 feet from surface. Okay, yeah. But eagles are kind of like a normally fly very high altitude. Also eagles can kind of like a something travel so much amount of area. Okay, yeah, as compared to other birds. This is all happen is because of the very large wings. Okay, yeah, eagles has almost like a 1 feet or yeah 1 feet of wings, 1 feet or maybe one or half, maybe I'm not really sure, but more than that. Okay, yeah. So having that much bigger wing area, that means the cross section area of wing is like really big. Okay, yeah. So you're gonna create so much amount of lift. What is a lift? A lift means some certain force that kind of like pushing you upwards. Okay, that is called lift. Okay, yeah. So it generate lift, and because of this large cross section area, eagles can fly very large distance, very long distance, as well as it can went up to very high altitude. Okay, yeah, that is a really good thing. But the downside of the eagle is that the eagles can't move that fast, or eagle can't kind of like a move or turn as much as fast that smaller birds could do. Example, if I'm trying to compare regarding about birds, okay, yeah, the large wing birds like eagles are meant to be fly longer distance as also high altitude, but the limitation comes with it is that they don't really kind of like flexible, like they don't really have that much flexibility, that they just kind of like go from very tight spaces, or like the maneuverability, like am I kind of like a saying particular, I'm not really sure, but the way that things could move like from left to right to right to left to up to down, these are kind of like a maneuverability. Okay, probably if I'm right. Okay, yeah, eagles can't do that. Like basically they could do that, but probably it's like a little something, it takes too much amount of area and time and things like that. Okay, yeah. Another thing is that birds like especially eagles are kind of like a take time to lift up. What do you mean by that? It means that na ki like basically what I'm trying to tell you, you haven't really seen eagle is kind of like a so close to the surface, probably very less. Okay, yeah, mostly the eagles are fly at very high altitude. Okay, yeah, and if the eagles wanted to stay, it kind of like a something stay at very high branch of trees almost like a 50 feet, yeah, 20 to 50 feet. Okay, yeah, like basically eagles cannot go as kind of like a something very bottom. Okay, yeah, it went bottom, it like eagles can do like a very close to the surface too, but like very rarely. Okay, even if there is a kind of like a some food sources, only and only then eagles could do that. But rest of the time eagles are always being something really high up. Okay, yeah, the reason is that the large wings that they have, they can't really kind of like a flip that fast. Okay, yeah, and this is what kind of like a something problem with they have. Okay, yeah, like basically is this thing, if you kind of like a simply take a eagles and kind of like a simply try to spread the wings, it kind of like a simply cover almost like a entire area of our your two hand. Yeah, like a basically is this thing na ki I don't know, the cross section area of kind of like a spreaded wing is almost like a five nahi, it's almost like a 3 to 4 feet probably. Yeah, because that is like a eagles is very big bird na. Yeah, and if I'm trying to tell you is this thing, if the cross section area of wing is too high, then probably they can't really maneuver that fast, maneuver their body and maneuver their tilt, they don't really do that fast. Okay, yeah, and okay, yeah, if you still not understand, try to compare with a hummingbird. Okay, yeah, hummingbird is has a very less cross section area of wings. Okay, yeah, but they could kind of like a something move very fast, and very their maneuverability is a kind of like a something so fast that it is like a can't even able to see like this is how much fast it is. Okay, yeah, obviously they won't be able to kind of like a travel the long distance. Okay, those hummingbird, no, they can't. But one thing they are good at, they are kind of like a something move their body, the maneuverability is a kind of like a something, yeah, like gup 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 gup, it's really faster than eagle. Okay, yeah. So this is what exactly represent in our modern aircraft tools. Okay, yeah. Like let's say a passenger vehicle. Okay, yeah. So the passenger vehicle, sorry, the passenger aircraft that we have, like a Airbus A380 or like a Boeing 707, probably. Yeah, they have almost like a very large wings. Okay, yeah, very large wings, and this is what kind of like a meant for a longer distance with less maneuverability. Okay, yeah. As also it is very fuel efficient too. Yeah, like basically if I'm trying to compare, the longer cross section area of wings are also kind of like a something help you to reduce the fuel intensity as also, because you are kind of like a something, I don't know, yeah. But the passenger vehicles are kind of like something have very large wings. Okay, yeah. As also they don't really move that fast. Okay, yeah. The Airbus A380 or like a Boeing, these are kind of like a flying aircraft, could went almost like a thousand or almost like a 1200 kilometer, probably mostly 1000 kilometer per hour. Yeah. But if I try to compare the fighter vehicles, so fighter aircraft like a F-14, okay, yeah, or like a fighter aircraft, okay, you probably seen it, Sukhoi. These are kind of like a fighter vehicles are very small. Okay, the cross section, the wing cross section area is very less, but but the kind of like a good thing is that they can go really faster. Okay, almost like a Mach 1, Mach 2, they could achieve that speed from this particular cross section, a small cross section area. As also the fighter plane can move their entire aircraft left to right, ups and down very fast. Okay, yeah, very fast. So this is what kind of like a something same thing, like as a eagle is represent the passenger vehicle. Okay, like a Airbus A380 or something like that. Okay, yeah. Hummingbirds are kind of like a represent the fighter aircraft. Okay, yeah. F-14, F-16, F-18, these are kind of like as a fighter vehicle represent to as a hummingbird. Now you are actually mentioned like you are kind of like a thinking that these birds have wings and they could flap. Okay, yeah. We have a wings that it kind of like a fix. So how do we lift up, how do we kind of like a generate the lift? Okay, yeah. So we are generating lift because of the powerful engine. Okay, yeah. We have jet propulsion, we have like a jets are actually installed. Okay, yeah. In the aircraft, in the passenger vehicle, you could see below the wings there are almost like a four rotor or four generator or kind of like something, not generator, it's a kind of like something engine. Okay, yeah. They could kind of like a something create that particular thrust so that it would kind of like a something go that much higher. Okay, yeah. But what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that key those engine are so powerful, like a kind of like a something, it kind of like a giving you the velocity probably. Yeah, like it's kind of like a giving you the velocity to go forward. It's not meant to be go upward, no, it's kind of like a giving you go forward velocity. The wings are kind of like a use as a create a lift, a create a drag from upper to lower, probably, if I'm kind of like somebody correct this thing or not. But okay, yeah, let me give the example so that you will probably understand. So have you ever kind of like a like a basically put your hand out of car or bike or whatever it is? Okay, yeah. And you do kind of like a something, this snake kind of like a stuff at mid-air. Okay, yeah. Like I like you everyone did that. If you don't really did this thing, so what should you supposed to do is that key, like if you are traveling, okay, yeah, take your hand out. Okay, yeah, and try to kind of like act as a kind of like a something airplane. Okay, yeah. So when you try to make your palm little bit upward, it gives you lift, it hand automatically gives you lift and your hand went upward without you are putting any kind of like a force your hand. It kind of like a went, if you put kind of like a downward position, it went down. Okay, yeah. This is what exactly happened in the plane too. Okay, yeah. In this particular example that I mentioned, when you throw out your hand, the velocity of you is because of that ki you are sitting on the car or train or bike or something like that. Okay, yeah. So this is the velocity that actually given from this particular vehicle, and the kind of like a you are putting the kind of like a something your palm of hand is kind of like acting an angle, and that angle is kind of like a depend on how much cross section area is actually covered, so that it would kind of like a generate the lift for your hand, and it automatically went up. It automatically went up. Okay, yeah, yeah, you probably did this thing. It's not really that much rocket science. Okay, yeah. So it kind of like a generate the lift, and your hand went upward. All right, yeah. So because of this bird, we have this kind of like a something comparison regarding about the passenger vehicle or fighter vehicle, passenger aircraft vehicle, fighter aircraft vehicle. Okay, yeah. But it's not the thing. Okay, yeah, like basically if you wanted to fly, the wings is not the only entire thing. No, definitely not. There are so many things too. Okay, yeah. um Now, basically, have you seen any kind of like a birds? Yeah, probably you've seen the birds. Okay, yeah. Every bird has a tail. Okay, yeah. That tail is very essential for birds. Why? Because when they have a tail, they could kind of like a something utilize to maneuverability, like a left and right. Okay, yeah. As I mentioned, birds like the wings cannot decide to go to left and right. No, they could kind of like a create the kind of like a particular angle, and depend upon the cross section area, they could kind of like a generate the lift. But the if the birds want to go left and right, it depends on the tail. Yeah, literally it depends on the tail. Okay, yeah. If you still not really understand, have you seen fish, shark, dolphin? Yeah. So basically, these kind of like a something animal, these fishes or these sharks, they have tail. Okay, yeah. What does tail do? Tail is a kind of like a something giving them a particular something that it's like a try to imagine as a wing. Okay, yeah, like a basically in the air you have a wing at your kind of like a something at side, but when you are in the ocean or in the water, you don't really require a wing, you really require your tail. That tail is kind of like a giving you some sort of movement to go left and right, and it is that. Okay, yeah, how do I supposed to express this thing? I'm not really sure, but you actually seen this thing. Okay, yeah. um as I kind of like give you another example is this thing. Have you seen there is a guy who is a swimmer? Okay, yeah. But on his leg he has a kind of like a something like a tail, like he has a kind of like a something shoes which has kind of like act as a tail, and which is kind of like a create the bigger cross section area, so that it would kind of like a giving them forward. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. Okay, yeah, like it's a very hard to explain in this audio artifact, but you could imagine that this would be kind of like a something stuff that as a body, if you wanted to move forward, we really required some sort of tail to kind of like a maneuverability from left to right, or yeah. Same thing happened with the birds too. Okay, yeah. But as I tell you, okay, yeah. Birds are mostly rely on their wings. Okay, yeah. And the tails are kind of like a giving them pointing left to right. Okay, yeah. But their cross section area of entire bird is very less. Okay. Like if I'm trying to compare, like basically how much it is important, let me tell you one thing. Okay, yeah. In modern world we called as a rudder. Okay, yeah. So what does rudder do? Okay, it's kind of like a same thing happened with the tail. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing na ki if we wanted to go right, okay, yeah, the rudder went to left. Okay, yeah, when it went to left, it kind of like a create the drag and kind of like a went aircraft to the left position. Okay, yeah, this is same thing happened with the tail. Okay, yeah, tail is also kind of like the birds are kind of like a moving the tail from left to right. It depends on inverse proportion, like basically if the birds want to go right, the tail went almost like a the tail kind of like a change into the left position, so that it would kind of like a giving them maneuverability to turn left and right. Okay, yeah, so this is what it is. Like I don't know, like am I kind of like uh, expressing this term properly? I'm not really sure, but this is what it is. Okay, yeah, we and in our modern aircraft we have a rudder. Okay, yeah, that rudder, like basically at the bottom of the aircraft we have this rudder. That rudder is kind of like a giving them something really maneuverability to left and right. Okay, yeah, the cross section area of rudder is actually depend on which aircraft. Like basically the passenger vehicle have very less cross section area, so that means that passenger aircraft vehicle means A380 cannot kind of like a something like that ki something like move that right and left that much fast. Okay, yeah, but the fighter plane has a very bigger cross section area of rudder, so that means it would create so much amount of drag to kind of like a turn the aircraft left to right, ups and downs, something like that. Okay, yeah, it's also very hard to explain in this audio artifact. You just have to go to the YouTube, search about how does rudder work in aircraft. You will find the animation and you just click it. It's really good, it's really great. Okay, yeah, now if I'm try to talking about the flying, the birds flying, and how do we supposed to learn from it. Okay, yeah, so another thing that we should supposed to be learn is that weight. Okay, yeah, weight. um like we have bones. Okay, yeah, already we have bones. Okay, yeah, our bones are like a solid bones. Okay, yeah, we solid bones means like that it's not hollow, it's a solid. Okay, yeah, and because of we have kind of like a something solid bone, so our structure is kind of like a something very stable. Okay, yeah, we could lift the weight, we could walk, we could run, we could push some sort of object, we pull some sort of object, we apply the force. Okay, yeah, is this because of we have rigidity. Okay, and that rigidity came from the bone, because bone is act like a kind of like a some structure, and the muscles are kind of like a giving them particular force to utilize that bone to create the action and stuff like that. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, yeah, as a human body. Okay, as a human body we could lift the weight. Okay, yeah, more than ours. Like basically my weight is almost like a 80 70 kilo. Yeah, my weight is almost like a 70 kilo. Yeah, I could lift the weight 2 kilo, 20 kilo, 25 kilo. Okay, yeah, even 50 kilo, even 100 kilo too. Yeah, literally, like how do you supposed to lift the 100 kilo weight if you have 70 kilo weight? How do you supposed to lift the 100 kilo weight? Like basically I won't be able to lift the entire. No, probably I'm kind of like a apply the force, and I kind of like a giving them particular motion to that 100 kilo body. Okay, yeah, example, you actually seen that there is a couple of people who are actually pushing the car. Okay, yeah, the car weight is almost like a thousands kilo. Okay, yeah, then how do we should supposed to push the car, and car can actually push like a car this can move? How this actually happened is because of that key we have bone rigidity probably, if I'm kind of like a right, bone rigidity. It kind of like a giving a very solid structure of our entire human body. Our muscles is act kind of like a something giving them particular force, so we could apply the force, we could kind of like a something giving them something like push or pull. Okay, yeah, we could do that, our human body could do that. All those people, all those animal who actually kind of like a somebody stay at the surface, they could do that. Means like that a dog, a cat, a lion, a tiger, a kangaroo, a panda, like every animal who cannot fly, they could kind of like simply push things. They could push things. They could apply the force, whatever. Okay, whatever it is. Okay, yeah. These are kind of like some this thing is because of that ki we have all those animal who have kind of like a rigid bone structure so that we would apply the force. Okay, yeah. But if I'm trying to talk about birds, they can't do that. They can't apply the force. And why? Is this thing because of that their body is not meant to be for lifting the weight. Okay, yeah. Nothing really at all. Like basically, have you seen a birds could kind of like a something just lift a very small pieces of kind of like a something stuff that like it like they can't like why because of that they could fly now. Okay, yeah, means like that why does I have 70 kilo weight is because of the bone rigidity, is because of muscles, is because of fat and things like that. Okay, yeah. As a birds, they have very hollow bones. Okay, I means like that they have a bones, but their bones are hollow from inside. Okay, I mean it means that it could break very easily. Literally it could break very easily. uh, but one of the kind of like a giving them advantage is that ki they are very light, literally very light. Okay, yeah. Have you seen the leg of any bird species? They are kind of like a very small. Okay, yeah, like a basically look at my leg. My leg is like a it kind of like a something feels that it has a power. Same thing happened with the chimpanzee, same thing happened with the any animal who is kind of like a something a dog or cat or whatever. We have leg, and that leg is a very strong, it kind of like a giving them a strength to kind of like a stand on the surface of the earth. But birds have like a very small leg. Okay, yeah. And they just only utilize for kind of like a something just stays, and that's it. Okay, yeah. Means like that utilization of the leg in a birds are very less. Okay, so that's why they are very tiny. Another thing is that because of their hollow bones, the muscles can't build up. Okay, yeah, means like that ki like like right now my weight is almost like a 70 kilo. Okay, I have muscles, and for that building the muscles we really require the fats. And that fat, if I didn't really kind of like a somebody consume, if I didn't really kind of like a somebody utilize that fat, it kind of like a stays, and I would kind of like a feel like obese. Okay, yeah, like I could be a fat person, I could be kind of like a somebody this thing. Same thing happened with the every animal, I'm not really sure, but somewhat, yeah. But birds cannot be a fat. Yeah, literally just like birds cannot be a fat. Why? Because of that ki birds metabolism system is way much faster than us. What do you mean by that? Okay, um okay, so it's a very hard to explain, but yeah. uh, we actually eat twice in a day, sometime three times in a day. Okay, yeah. um, like right, as a dog could eat once in a day or twice in a day. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened with the every animal who is kind of like a somebody staying at surface. They could eat maybe once or twice. Okay, yeah. But birds always eating, always eating. Yeah, literally they always eating like a whenever they go they are kind of like eat something whatever it is. Okay, yeah, any kind of like a stuff, it is. Why? Is because of that ki when they fly they could kind of like a consume so much amount of energy. Okay, yeah. And when they consume so much amount of energy, they really require so much amount of energy to kind of like a something stable their body and things like that. So they always eating. Yeah, always eating. If I'm trying to compare with the calories, basically I burn this much amount of calories, like 1,000 kilocalories I burn while working out, are very less if I'm trying to compare with the birds. Okay, yeah, obviously the calories is kind of like a depend on the size and things like that. But what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that if the birds is kind of like a somebody understand the calories, they are kind of like a somebody spend thousands of calories when they are flying, and it is obviously, like when you are try to fly, your movement is really faster. Your kind of like a simply entire weight is actually lifted up by the wings and things like that. So it is really necessary, it is really essential for them to eat always, like they really require food always. Okay, yeah. So birds could eat every time, like they don't really have pause, like they only have one purpose in their life: eat, eat, eat. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. And it is also really help with our ecosystem too, because of that ki birds could eat. So that's why our worms and things like that, like we have earthworms and things like that, it could kind of like somebody spoil the some sort of soil and things like that. Birds could kind of like like basically bird, I don't know how to I supposed to explain this thing, but because of the birds could eat always, it kind of like helps our ecosystem. Okay, yeah. So like basically they are some sort of kind of like a something animal or some sort of insects are kind of like a something very poisonous for plants and stuff like that. Birds could eat that insect. Okay, yeah. Eat that insects and stuff like that to try not to spoil the trees and entire ecosystem. Okay, yeah. So if I'm trying to compare, okay, yeah, birds cannot have fat, that means they cannot store energy, so that means they always need to eat. As a people, as a human or other kind of like a species who kind of like a something store our fats in our body, in our muscles and stuff like that. So that's why we could eat once or twice in a day, but birds cannot. Birds always eat. Okay, because they cannot store the energy inside of them. Okay. So that's why it kind of like a something giving them very less weight. Okay, yeah. The average weight of birds is almost like a 200 to 200 gram to almost like a 500. If I'm kind of like a going to for bigger birds, means like that eagle or things like that, it went almost like a maybe 1 or 2 kilo probably, or mostly 5 kilo, depend upon the size and things like that. But probably I haven't really seen any kind of like a some bird whose weight is almost more than 10 kilo. Yeah. Like if it is like a might be in some sort of species they have kind of like a something more than 10 kilos of birds, but I haven't really seen them because most of the birds have very less weight. Okay, yeah. And it is really help for kind of like a something flying and things like that. Now if I'm try to kind of like a somebody understand that key, how does this less weight is kind of like a help us to flying things. Okay, yeah. Okay, so basically this thing, our aircraft is actually does not made by iron. Okay, yeah, iron is a very heavy material. Okay, yeah. We cannot made our aircraft from the gold is also very heavy material. Okay, yeah. So we need to utilize such a material which is lighter but tougher, means like that it would sustain that pressure and things like that. Example, when you fly above almost like a thousands of feet and things like that, thousands of altitude वगैरह, it there are temperature difference between like there are temperature difference like basically very low temperature, sorry, very low pressure, sorry, very low pressure. And it would kind of like a something our body is not meant to be sustained for lower pressure. Okay, yeah. So our aircraft should supposed to be lighter, but as well as they are kind of like a very tough to handle that particular pressure too. Okay, yeah. So we use multiple material. Okay, yeah. First of all we use aluminum is light. Okay, yeah, it's very lighter, it's also really tougher than steel. Okay, yeah. But still it's not really good. Okay, yeah. We also use particular aluminum alloy, means like that ki aluminum mixed with other materials so that it would kind of like add little bit of toughness inside of them. Okay, yeah. But still it's a aluminum. Now we have something really also carbon fiber. Okay, yeah. Carbon fiber is a very light material, very light, and has also very strong, utilized in fighter plane or F1 cars. Okay, like I'm not gonna talk about the F1 cars, but fighter planes are like mostly those are kind of like assembly planes are made up by the carbon fiber. It's not entirely carbon fiber, made up of mixture of carbon fiber, aluminum, and these are things. I don't really knew the entire composition of the materials over there, but probably these are things. Okay, yeah. As also not just a body, but as also everything is actually very kind of like a curate, very kind of like a something like a seats. Okay, yeah. The wooden, they don't really use wood. Okay, yeah, they don't really have wood, basically they have kind of like a something seat with a cushion with a foam, but as also the kind of like a stand which actually made of aluminum. Okay, yeah. They use rubber. Okay, yeah, inside, I'm talking about the inside everything. Okay, rubber, like a kind of like a utilize such a material which has a very less weight. Okay, yeah. They use cloth. Okay, yeah. Cloth means kapda. Okay, yeah, they use cloth multiple times to kind of like reduce the weight. Plastic is also really essential, they use plastic. Okay, yeah. They try not to use iron that much. Okay, yeah, because iron is kind of like a so much carrying the weight. Okay, in very less cross section area, so they are not try to use. But if it necessary means like that regarding about the engine and propeller and things like that, at that time it should supposed to be utilized by iron or other kind of like a stuff. But rest of the kind of like a assembly material, that they should supposed to be control which material they should supposed to be used, and it has to be very less. Okay, it has to be very less wet. Okay, yeah. Regarding about the cross section area, if you don't really understand, um, so 1 square feet, 1 square feet of gold, one, like I'm talking about like a, okay, let's say the volume. Okay, yeah, try to imagine a kind of like a something something like a, you have a tiles at your home. Okay, yeah, look at the tiles. Okay, they are kind of like a square. Okay, yeah. Depend upon the design of the style and things like that, depending upon the design of the tiles, always tiles are almost like a 1 square feet. Okay, yeah, basically 1 feet which is actually in square. Okay, yeah. So this is called kind of like a cross section area. Okay, just imagine that thing. Now what you supposed to do is that ki, try to fill that tiles with the multiple materials. Okay, yeah, iron, zinc, aluminum, gold. Okay, yeah. So if I put the gold, the cross section area of weight of that particular 1 square feet is almost like a 10 kilo or more than that, because the materials in the gold or molecules in the gold are so close by. Because of that it add so much denser, that means it add so much heavy. Okay, yeah. So gold are kind of like something very heavy material. Okay, yeah. But if you went to kind of like something such a another material like aluminum is a kind of like a taking very less weight, is because of that the molecules are kind of like a something uh, away from each other, but their covalent bond is very strong. Okay, yeah. So it is kind of like a act as a tough, but not really that much. Okay, yeah. Now let's take the carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is a kind of like a made with the carbons, and I'm not really sure the composition of that thing, but the carbon is kind of like a something which is very lighter. The molecules are kind of like a something very, it's not really close, but it's not really that much far. But carbon is a kind of like a something material which is always have kind of like a connected. Okay, always have kind of like a connected with other elements. It is that it has that property. Okay, yeah. So it kind of like a something just holding that particular one molecule to another molecule so tightly without kind of like a something making it brittle or things like that. So yeah. So in modern aircraft we use multiple materials. Okay, yeah. Carbon fiber, um, aluminum. Okay, yeah. Multiple material, I'm not really sure about those, but yeah, these are kind of like only multiple material are utilized to aircraft to make it less weight. All right, yeah. But also one of the things, okay, yeah, is that thing ki, if we wanted to kind of like a something try to like just try to understand. Okay, yeah. I have a bike. Okay, Passion Pro. which has almost like a 100 cc bike. Okay, yeah, means like that it could kind of like create so much little bit amount of energy so that I can move forward. I can move forward. Okay, yeah. Now there is a bike who has almost like a 200 cc, 400 cc. Okay, yeah, which kind of like a enough energy to go carry so much amount of weight and as also creating forward motion. Okay, yeah. Now if we went to the cars, we have 100 horsepower, 200 horsepower. Right now there is a Bugatti Veyron who has thousands of horsepower. Okay, yeah, that means it could have that much energy to kind of like carry the weight and as also go forward too. The locomotive trains, okay, the trains that you are actually seeing, it has almost like a 10,000 horsepower, means that it could generate 10,000 horsepower to go forward. So that's why the local trains are kind of like a carrying so much amount of weight. Okay, like a thousands of tons, metric ton can kind of like a simply pulled by this locomotive vehicle. Okay, yeah. Now can you imagine how much energy does it required to kind of like a simply create that particular force in the aircraft? How much? Just imagine. Okay, I'm not really sure the exact number, but whatever you are imagine, it is two times more than that. Yeah, literally two times more than that, because the engines, the jet engine that they have is kind of like a creating so much amount of energy, so much amount of energy so that it would go forward. Okay, yeah, and not just forward, go faster too, so that it would kind of like the lift would, the wings would create the lift and the aircraft would fly. Okay, yeah. The fuel consumption, okay, like basically my bike is almost like a 65 kilometer per liter. So if I put the kind of like a only 1 liter of petrol, it would kind of like a travel me 60 to 60 65 kilometer. Okay, yeah. If we increase the energy, that means like increase the horsepower, it would take even more fuel. Like basically the Bugatti Veyron has almost like a maybe in 1 liter of petrol it would kind of like a somebody goes zero point 0.3 or zero point 0.4 kilometer. Yeah, not less than 1 kilometer. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, if we wanted to add so much amount of power, it consumes so much amount of fuel, so much amount of fuel. Okay, yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, the aircraft is kind of like a create so much amount of energy, that means it would kind of like a really require so much amount of fuel, so much, literally it's like, yeah. So basically it is a lot of things, Rudy. We have to figure it out, the energy and things like that. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. This is what kind of like a something the how does birds could fly and how do I supposed to understand from the birds and things like that. As also these are the information that I have is because of that ki I am kind of like a somebody from 21st century. Okay, yeah. And I do have this information is because of the YouTube and books and things like that. Okay, yeah. But the early humans or kind of like a something 200 years ago, we don't really have that much leverage to understand this thing, but still we have that. We are like, I'm from 21st century, so that's why we have this thing. Like entire human existence for almost like a thousands of year, we are always thinking about how do we should supposed to be fly, how do we should supposed to be fly. And within this 200 year, we kind of like a something evolved ourselves and we could fly. Flying is a kind of like a giving them human as a freedom. Okay, yeah, it gives you kind of like a something, it allows you to dream above the sky. Like what is exactly we are asking question, that what is exactly beyond the sky, what is actually beyond our earth, what is actually beyond our universe. These are kind of like a something questions that we have is because of the curiosity that we have. Okay, yeah. And that curiosity becomes necessity, and that necessity is kind of like a convert into the invention. Okay, yeah. So that's why we have all those aircraft and things like that. It is really good thing to be have as a kind of like a being human and being a curiosity, whatever. So this is kind of like a something, how do I supposed to learn from birds and things like that, from building aircraft and things. All right, so I should supposed to be end here. That's it, and thank you.